There are countries all around the world where simply depositing money in the bank entitles you to a residence permit or possibly even citizenship. Today, we're going to go through 6 residence permit countries that I'm looking at for potentially opening a bank account and getting a residence permit for free. And this is part of the holistic approach that we take here at Nomad Capitalist for our clients. You can go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply and learn more about our process. I want to be diversified in as many places around the world as makes sense. And so in many cases, I want to live in one place, bank in another. But sometimes you can align to where getting a bank account actually gets you a residence permit in a place that you might want to live. And let's be clear. Just having a residence permit or even a citizenship doesn't mean that you have to live there. In fact, most of these, you don't need to live there at all. You just get the option to live there in exchange for putting your funds. What I look at it is if you have liquidity, in this case, bank accounts, other countries have bond options or stock purchase options. But if you have liquidity somewhere and you want to be globally diversified, you don't want to keep all your eggs in one basket, you want to protect those assets, moving money from one country's bank to another doesn't make the money go away. You might need to get comfortable with your money being in that country, which I've done over the years by simply doing it and realizing my money is still all there. But your money moved from a bank where you live to a bank in some other country, all it does is get you a free residence permit. Let's go through the ones that I'm interested in real quick. First, I mentioned citizenship is possible. The big ones there are Turkey and Egypt. You're looking at mid 6-figure sums in both of those countries for their citizenship by investment program. And you're going to hold on to those bank deposits in those countries for several years to get citizenship for life. So if you're looking for second citizenship by a bank deposit, there are some intricacies to that. Turkey and Egypt have those on the citizenship level. Now, let's talk about what I'm looking for, which is a residence permit. And just having a residence permit does not mean you have to pay tax in that country. Residence permit does not mean tax residence generally. But let me go through the 6 countries I'm looking at. Number 1, Indonesia. Number 2, Thailand. Those are the ones in Asia. In West Asia, Saudi Arabia. And then in Latin America and the Caribbean, Paraguay, Panama, and Barbados. So let's start in Asia. Now, what we've seen in Malaysia, where I live part-time, is their new MM2H program, which is kind of the easier residence program for foreigners who don't want to come and work. It's combining a bank deposit with a property purchase with a commitment to spend some time. If you go outside of Peninsular Malaysia to Sabah and Sarawak, they have a little bit easier conditions. But Peninsular Malaysia, if you don't want to spend time on the Borneo side, they've combined a couple of those different things together. Indonesia and Thailand have not done that. You open a bank, you put the money in, you get the residence permit, and you don't really need to be there, maybe about 1 day per year. So in Indonesia, it's about $129,000. That's going to get you a 5-year residence permit. The restriction there is you have to put your money in, there's a couple government-owned banks. And so this is not going to be a robust service. So for example, a lot of people go to Turkey for that aforementioned citizenship by investment program, and they need to put the money into a local bank account, convert it to Turkish lira, and then be able to buy the property if they're going to buy real estate for citizenship by investment. Most people prefer the real estate option to the banking option. The bank that a lot of people will use in Turkey when they're not a resident yet or not a citizen yet is a government bank. It is not that robust. Even at the higher level options, they're not that great. They're not what you might be used to. Let's say if you're banking in Singapore or you're banking in Switzerland or even Dubai. And so those are the banks that you're going to get in Indonesia. You're basically going to park your $129,000 in the bank, and it's going to sit there. And I mean, it's not supposed to be moved in and out. You don't have access to it. But if you wanted to put additional money in there, it's probably not the best transactional account. Once you have that bank deposit, you can go and open a bank account separately anywhere else that you want at a privately owned bank or a publicly traded but non-government bank. Do you want to have 2 banks in Indonesia? We have talked to you about how Indonesia itself is not that tax-friendly a place to live. This residence permit in and of itself, if you do not intend to reside and you do not show that intent to live in Indonesia, should be tax-friendly. But Indonesia is one of the less tax-friendly countries in Southeast Asia. I think just a residence permit and a bank account isn't a big deal. Now you might ask, why get it? Well, I mean, for some people, we've had clients who said, Andrew, I don't have time to move all my money around. I'm busy running a business. Asian countries, I mean, the bureaucracy is not as high as what you'd find, let's say, a European country to get a residence permit. If you're looking for places to stash money just to be diversified, why not get a residence permit? Maybe you just want to go there. Maybe you don't want to apply for a visa when you go to Indonesia. I mean, it makes your life a little bit easier. Just be aware of what would trigger the tax consequences. Thailand, at today's exchange rates, about $290,000. That's based on a 10 million baht price for residence. A lot of people talk about the Thai elite, or now the Thai privilege visa is a way to basically rent your stay in Thailand. And people have complained that some of the prices for those privilege visas have gone up, where you just pay them, $19,000 a year to live in Thailand for 5 years. I always thought, from my perspective, if you have some liquidity, why not get an investor visa? Now, there's other things you can put that 10 million into, but if you're me, buying more real estate isn't really ideal. There are some options for like stocks, and I think the Thai stock market could be interesting. It's gotten beaten up in recent years. There could be some opportunities there, but pretty straightforward is put your money in the bank, 10 million Thai baht. You can get decent service from one of the larger banks at that deposit level. And in exchange, you get a residence permit where you're just going to renew it every year as long as that money's there. You're going to spend 1 day in Thailand every year to renew that. Thailand is more tax friendly. They have what's basically a remittance-based system now. So any money that you've earned from 2024 onward that you bring into Thailand, if you spend the majority of your time in Thailand and become a tax resident, is taxed. Now, for someone like me, I might just want the ability to go to Thailand and get in a little bit easier. And I've never had any problems getting to Thailand, never had any problems getting into Indonesia. What's great about Asia is they have the priority line, where if you're flying in business class or if you hire a service, they just kind of whisk you through. And so I've never had any problems. But I will tell you, as countries crack down more and more on tourists and how long you stay in here, and I mean, countries like Mexico, for example, they don't give you 180 days. It says in the law. They give you a lot less. I mean, countries do not want people to be living in their country as a tourist. And so there's more scrutiny. And I think there will be more to come in the future. Thailand is introducing their own electronic travel authorization, ETA. And so that's going to be something you have to do. So for someone who, again, already wants to put money in different banks around the world and thinks that's a good idea, and who thinks that, as I do, I think Thai banks, there's some pretty strong Thai banks. If I can make it easier for the times that I go to Thailand, and I've got to commit 1 day per year, and I go out for a nice dinner, to me, that's potentially something that's interesting. I do think residence permits for places that you want to go more often in the way of the future. I have recommitted to spending more time in Asia. And so from Kuala Lumpur, Thailand could be a place that I go. Being a resident rather than a tourist, I think is always a good thing. And if the price of admission is tying up some cash in the bank, it's a relatively small price to pay for a lot of people who have cash. Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has a lifetime permanent residence program. It costs you 800,000 Saudi riyals. It's about 213,000 US dollars. You can then live there for life. Now, once you have that, you don't need to invest money to get a bank account. There are some conditions. It's something that, one of the reasons why I want to do it potentially is just to see for myself and feel the experience. I think that you probably need to have some kind of Saudi address for that one. And so that is something that we're looking at. But you don't actually have to keep any amount of money in the bank, only what the bank might require. I think there's some pretty strong banks in Saudi. Obviously, it's a very tax-friendly part of the world. I think it's an emerging part of the world. When I look at stocks and bond opportunities in that region, I see some stuff that interests me as a conservative investor. And so I think having a place that you could live for the rest of your life, it is a bit of a price tag to be able to live there for life. So get that one while you're young, and then have access to bank in Saudi Arabia. That's one we're looking at as well. In Latin America, Paraguay, this one is a little bit trickier than I think some people think it is. You really do need a few things already in line before you go to Paraguay and open a bank account. We are going to be filming an episode of On Assignment in Asuncion in the coming months. So stay tuned for that. We're going to be in Asuncion. It is my belief that while some people may get lucky, generally you do need to be spending a majority of your time in the country, which is tax-friendly, no doubt, if you want to apply for citizenship. I'm the goody two-shoes of the offshore world. I would look at Paraguay as a residence permit, not a path to citizenship, because when they ask, have you spent, I think it's 9 months per year to be naturalized, I would tell the truth, and I have no interest in spending 9 months per year in Paraguay living. But as a residence permit, here's the thing that's interesting about these residence permits. They could change the criteria at any time. Often, not always, but oftentimes you can be grandfathered in. So Thailand, Saudi Arabia, Paraguay, all tax-friendly, potentially in some cases tax-free for certain people, places to live. Why not lock in now by putting some money in the bank, the ability to live in those countries for potentially many years into the future? You never know what could happen. You never know what pandemic could come. You never know what geopolitical issues could come. You never know what kind of war could come, trade war. Who knows what could happen? Is there a time, is there a situation where I would want to live in Paraguay? Yeah, it's not my top three, but, South America, low density, there's a lot of benefits to that part of the world. I do have a residence permit in Colombia. Paraguay, kind of the opposite end of the continent, could be an interesting place. $5,000, again, so a few more things you have to do than they make it sound like on Instagram, but doable. Panama, we're talking about low to mid six figures here. Panama has so many different immigration programs. I'm going to give you a couple different numbers just I want you to check. $300,000 in the bank, $750,000 in the bank. That gets you permanent residence in Panama, another tax-friendly country with territorial taxation. Again, I chose to live in Colombia because that's a part of the world that I spend a small part of my year in. So I'm not a taxpayer in Colombia by virtue of being there between 1 and 4 weeks a year. And I wouldn't be a taxpayer in Panama to even worry about the fact that they wouldn't tax me. But to put in a six-figure sum in a bank in Panama, I don't think those banks are as transactional. And so like a Saudi bank or a Thai bank, I think could be like a good, above that deposit, could be a good bank to put in extra money and transact, get a debit card, move money around, pay bills, send wire transfers. You could run your life through some of those countries' banks. Paraguay, I would feel a little more skittish about. And I think Panama, just the banks, Panama Papers, whatever you want to blame it on, those banks, number one, like nobody gets the same answer. And everybody knows this about Panama. I mean, there's dozens and dozens of banks. And, one can say yes to you today and no to him tomorrow. I mean, there's not a ton of uniformity. We have several banks that we work with that our R&D team really likes that seem to work for a lot of different circumstances of our clients. And so, what I've heard about those banks, though, is if you're trying to be constantly sending money in and out, it's not going to work. I would look at it as one level below a Thailand or a Saudi Arabia in terms of, my personal perception of safety. And, probably not much going to happen to your money there. And you get the residence permit and it's tax friendly and it's a regional hub. I mean, Copa Airlines flies all over the place. And so for someone particularly who's spending time in that part of the world, wouldn't be the worst thing to have. Wouldn't be the worst thing for me just to pop in for a day every year, on my way back somewhere, eastbound from Colombia. So that's an option that we're looking at. Not saying I'm going to do all these. Another option is in Barbados. This is a much more serious investment. It's $2 million. Now, Barbados has a sort of European-style, basically non-dom program, like Thailand, like in Europe, Ireland, Malta, Cyprus, like the UK used to have. Barbados left the Commonwealth. They got rid of the king recently, but they still keep some of those policies. Like if you live there, it can be very tax friendly. It is one of the larger islands. So I have a St. Lucia citizenship, for example. I mean, St. Lucia does not have the level of services that Barbados does. Barbados obviously does not have the level of services that Saudi Arabia or Thailand has. But for someone who wants Caribbean island living, not the worst thing. 5 years now. It's like if you popped in every once in a while, that would be nice. But technically, there's no requirement. It's one of those, which holds you up. They have some international banks there. $2 million, obviously a lot of money. Probably not one, unless I really wanted to live there, that I would rush, because I do think that some of those other countries, Thailand and again Saudi Arabia, probably have better banking facilities, at least for someone who's international, as I am. But Barbados, for someone who is perhaps a bit more westward leaning, who likes that Caribbean lifestyle, maybe you're from the UK, maybe you're from the US, you go back there every once in a while. I mean, that's kind of your sphere of influence. That could work pretty well. It's on my list to consider, but probably not one that would be, that's probably at the bottom of the list. So those are 6 countries that I'm looking at. There are others. We mentioned, Malaysia, it's not just a bank deposit anymore, but bank deposit is part of the mix. The question is, which residence permits and which citizenships do you need? Residence permits do not offer permanence. Indonesia, Thailand, Saudi Arabia, pretty difficult, if not impossible, to get citizenship in those places. I think in Thailand, if you get married, it's possible. Barbados, I guess, is a pathway if you really live there. But most of the rest of them, these are not places you're going to get citizenship. These are largely tax-friendly places where you can be a resident, and if you bring wealth, they want you to live there. And so I think when people are putting together their residence and citizenship portfolio, you want to consider all the different angles. You may not want to live in a country where you're a citizen. I don't live in St. Lucia. I do spend some time in 1 or 2 of my citizenship countries. But I think you want to look at, separating those. And a residence permit could be a tax-friendly, great lifestyle place, whether it's a Caribbean island or a Thai beach or, up and coming, Saudi Arabia, where they're really trying to improve things. And then your citizenship is somewhere else. This is what we help clients do. If you go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply, you can diversify your assets. Most of these bank deposits are generally going to be held in your own personal name, but we also do help with people who want holding company structures and offshore trusts. We've done a lot more work with those in recent years. We can also help you figure out residences, citizenships. And of course, if you want to live in any of these countries, you want to leave where you are now and go to one of these places, lowering your taxes. We have dozens of different options that we can help you with. Go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply. I'm not aware of anyone that has more options, better researched than we do. Most people you go to, there's a guy in Barbados who'll help you move there. How do you stop paying taxes where you live? Where do you move the money from? He doesn't know. He just does Barbados. Some companies, they'll sell you 5 different passports, but they won't tell you about the ones you can get for less money. We do all that. You pay us a fee for our advice, and we put together a holistic, bespoke plan that includes all this and more. And we feed in the stuff that I've done and the real world experience, not of how it should work, but how it actually does work. nomadcapitalist.com/apply if you want our help. This is the ultra luxury side of Bangkok. And showing you the hidden gems of Bangkok. So that you can live like a king.